Here's a video we like to call the anatomy of a bunker shot. Those of you that are struggling in the bunkers probably never thought about what is it that my club is actually supposed to do while I'm in there. You can see these two red lines that I've drawn in the bunker. That's actually going to be the area of sand disturbance. And you're going to notice that those of you who are trying to hit 2 inches behind the ball, at least in my opinion, you're hitting too close to the ball if you are indeed doing that. Most of the time when I'm working with a student in the bunker and they tell me they're hitting 2 inches behind the ball, I can demonstrate to them that they're actually hitting 8 or 10 inches behind it. Certainly their intention is 2 inches, they're just not pulling off their intention. Okay, what else do we have here? We've got the ball roughly centered or slightly forward of center in the stance. We've got the shaft leaning backwards. This is not a hands forward shot. Both of those things you'll see a little bit more clearly in a subsequent video that I'll put in here. The feet are dug in a little bit, partially for stability, but a big part of digging in your feet is to actually lower your swing. If you want your swing to pass underneath the golf ball, you've got to lower it to the sand. So we dig in our feet a little bit, and probably one of the most difficult things for most people to do is to actually lay their shaft back and open up the club face, which again you're going to see this in a little bit more prominent way in a subsequent video that I'm going to show you. But let this one run. I'm going to run it essentially frame by frame here. You can see that club didn't go up particularly abruptly. Not necessarily the way you have to hit a golf shot. You can use your standard swing, just a little different setup, a little bit different club head orientation. Now as the club comes in here, I want you to notice where it actually enters the sand. It's going to be on that back red line, which is a good 4 or 5 inches behind the ball. You can see that area of sand disturbance back there. The club face is still, although covered by sand, it's still pretty open as it slides underneath the ball. And believe it or not, there is the golf ball. Those of you who are struggling with getting the ball high enough over the lip of bunkers, you got to recognize that you've got to hit into the sand with the open face for that ball to jump up that high that quickly. And let's look when the sand clears here, what we have here. We can see that red line to the left side of the screen is in fact the initial entry point in the sand. The red line on the right side of the screen is the exit point in the sand. And the golf ball, as you may or may not recall, was almost dead center in that area of disturbance. And what we have here is just a really good sand wedge used by a very experienced player. And what I'm describing here is the fact that the cut of sand, the depth of the sand cut throughout this oval here, the depth of the cut is virtually the same all the way from the front to the back, which I'm struggling actually drawing there, but nonetheless I think you understand what I mean. We do not want a deep spot in the center. A deep spot in the center is an indication that you're not using the flange properly. Okay, in this frame you can see a little bit better ball position. Again, feet dug in, club face open, which we'll speak about in a second. There's a slight distortion here from the cell phone camera that makes the green lines look like they're not parallel to each other, but they really are in real life. And they represent about 8 inches on each side of the golf ball. The red lines represent, as you can imagine, once again it's going to be an area of disturbance of sand. And as you can see, this club face, well, you actually can't see the club face, but you're going to see in a second, this club face is wide open. So what the heck's that sand doing there? Well, that sand is something that we scooped up. That sand came from this spot right here. We just scooped it up with our sand wedge before we hit the shot. And it was for the purpose of showing you that you've got to have the face open enough to set a pile of sand on it as you start the swing. Many of you can set your club that way, but as soon as you kind of wiggle your grip to get comfortable, the club closes again, all the sand falls off before the swing even starts. Now you're going to see the sand fall off here. It's going to fall off as it slides off the face when the swing starts here. But nonetheless, you can see the face doesn't, the face is wide open there. And you're going to be flabbergasted how high this ball jumps out of there. Like, look how open that face still is at that point. Okay, we're looking for the area of sand disturbance again. Here it comes. You can see this player shifting to the left slightly. Why would that be? Well, we want our impact to be forward. Now look at this golf ball. Think that would get over any lips out there in the golf course? Look at that golf ball come up out of there. Let's go back here and look at that one more time as we go through there. The club looks like it actually hits closer to the ball right there, but the club itself was beginning to enter on the back left-hand red line. Slides underneath the ball in the club face, albeit distorted here. I think some of you can probably see that it's still pointing to the sky, flat out, wide open there, and that golf ball is trying to jump straight up in the air. Now you can do that with a 60-degree wedge. This particular shot was hit with a 64-degree wedge, but you can do that with a 60 by just opening it sufficiently. And watch this ball. This ball is going to leave the frame on the top of the frame rather than on the viewer's right side of the frame. And there we go. Once again, there's our area of disturbance here. Basically right there. Oh, I messed it up again. Basically right there. I mean, there's our front and back lines. The ball was roughly in the center of those lines. We didn't hit 2 inches behind it. We did not make a deep spot in the middle. If you look at the again, this area of disturbance, you're going to see that cut of sand is pretty consistent front to back. The club was in the ground maybe 10 inches, in the sand about 10 inches, 4 or 5 behind the ball, 4 or 5 in front of the ball, and it stayed open throughout that swing. So hopefully when you take a look at what's going on during the actual sand portion of your bunker shot, this can help you out a little bit. Let me let this run while I conclude this. Okay, let's look at one other element here. Watch the weight shift and how much this player gets on their left foot during the swing and at the end of the swing. There's not any weight leaning back. Going forward, forward, forward. Look how forward they are now. You've got to be forward to hit a good bunker shot. We get the question all the time that about when the bunkers are a little bit firm, there's not enough sand, so the club bounces into the ball. When the bunker's a little bit soft, there's too much sand, so I leave this bunker, I leave the shot in the bunker. The reality is the symptoms are the same on both those shots. You're hitting way too far behind it, and when the sand is soft, you can't move enough sand when you hit that far behind it, and consequently you leave the ball in the bunker. If the bunker is firm, hard, packed, wet, you're going to actually hit way too far behind it, bounce or skid into the ball rather than going underneath the ball. The solution is the same. All bunker shots can be hit with essentially the same technique. You've got to get 3 to 5 inches behind the ball as you enter the sand. The club has to stay down in the sand till it gets on the other side of the ball. In this case, we've identified maybe 4 inches behind it, 5 or 6 inches in front of it. That club is down in the sand the whole time. never touches the ball directly, and the loft of that club is going to lift it quickly up out of the sand. So hopefully this will help you out next time you're in the bunker, and if not, give me a call or one of our other staff members, and we can help you get yourself out of the bunker. Thanks.